Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. So as you can see, I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it, California shirt. So completely not in keeping with what is the Washington Open here. Gosh, the Citi Open. And I tell you what, we had some very, very interesting displays. Obviously, Jannick Sinner, he did so well, didn't he? I mean, he played incredibly well, Jannick Sinner. It was incredible to see such a young player performing the way that he has, and we'll touch upon his final performance and I guess the things that stood out and impressed me, I think, throughout the tournament from Jannick Sinner, and things that we've seen improvements from, and also things that, of course, he's always had. Right, okay, before we go on to that as well, of course, Federer turns 40 today as I'm recording this. So Roger Federer turns 40, so we'll quickly touch upon that after we've touched upon the Washington Open, and of course, Nadal dropping to number 4, and anything else I can think of, because, to be honest with you, I just love talking tennis. Right, if you haven't already, please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is the place to be if you want to have some really interesting and not filtered views. These are my kind of raw views, and I try and just give you guys exactly what's going on in the tennis world, and also I don't like to hold back, to be honest with you. If you are interested in other sports like cricket and boxing, we also cover that as well. So do check out our content for that. Right, okay, let's get into the Washington Open then, because Jannick Sinner, as I said, performed extremely well. But when I first left off anyway, I had covered a video doing the Nadal upset, being a Nadal fan. And, well, not just that, it's just because he's one of the big three. So you have to cover him at some stage, don't you? Yes, you do. That left us at the round of 16, and Brooksby, who we are going to talk about a little bit as well, beat FAA in straights. Nishikori beating Nishikori beating Cam Norrie in 3. I think we touched upon that as well, and also then Sinner beating Corden in 2 very straight sets. 2 very straight sets, 2 very close sets even. Both went to breakers. So then we went into the quarters, and this is when it gets interesting, because obviously Nadal lost to Lloyd Harris, right? We know that. But Jannick Sinner beat Johnston in straight 6-4, 6-2. And Brooksby with a really impressive performance against the number 11 seed Millman from Australia, 6-1, 6-2. And then McDonald against Ivashka came through in straight. So that showed, what we're seeing here, we're seeing a little bit of an American resurgence here potentially. And we saw that because, look, we have 4 Americans making the semis here. Of course, a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest with you. Sorry, let me correct myself. There were 2 Americans in the semi-final, and the rest of the quarters, McDonald lost to Kudla. McDonald beat, can't even speak at the moment today. McDonald beat Kudla in straight sets, and Lloyd Harris lost to Nishikori in straights. Obviously, Lloyd Harris beating Nadal early doors and played some fantastic tennis. He's had a fantastic year so far. And Nishikori, look, I mean, clearly that form, that little bit of form he found in the Olympics, he found here as well. In the semi-finals, though, Sinner came through in a very tight first set against Brooksby, who I'm going to touch upon him now because obviously he's not going to make an appearance in the final. He's been likened to Andy Murray from Gil Gross on his channel. And I think Gil Gross is actually going to post a video about that, about the similarities and how I guess technically he sees them as being 2 very similar players. They are both counter punchers. Brooksby uses the pace of the opponent and he deflects it very effectively. And he seems to have very good hands at the net. And the backhand down the line, the backhand especially, is just a weapon, and he seems to generate easy power down the line. So I think he's someone who is quite a clever tennis player. Andy Murray said that himself, and it's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how he does going forward. He's obviously come up, and I think he's just in the last year, he's mainly been playing Challenger Tours, and I think he's lost 3 times this year in the all year, and now he's broken into the ATP Tour, and he looks like a good player. So let's see how he goes. I don't want to touch upon him too much. I'm not going to lie to you. Gil Gross and some of the other YouTubers definitely probably on players like Brooksby probably have a lot more knowledge on him. As I see more and more of him, I'll be able to get a better gauge of him, but that's kind of my initial thoughts. McDonald beat Nishikori in 3 sets, so, really impressive stuff to see McDonald get through, and a nice little run as well for him and the American. Sinner, 7-6, 6-1. So as I said, a tight first set, but that second set against Brooksby just came up trumps. But Brooksby looks the real deal. So I'll be interested to see how he does for the rest of the year. I'm sure he'll be playing the US Open. Not exactly 100% sure on his ranking, but I'd imagine he'd get at least a wild card, if not get through the qualifiers. And then Jannick Sinner beating McDonald in the final. Now, this was an interesting one because Jannick Sinner was playing some good tennis in that first set. Second set, he fell away. The nerves got to him a little bit. Wasn't moving as well. And the third just managed to close it out. It's a very competitive match in the end. You can see 9 aces to 5 for McDonald. 5 double faults there from McDonald, which probably would have bit him in the butt in the end. First set percentage from Sinner, not as good as it has been throughout the tournament, to be fair. But the win percentage behind the first serve was better than probably expected. And I think the whole tournament as well, it was a lot higher. I think it was in the 80% column for the whole tournament. So that's what's impressive on his side. And we'll touch on the serving as well in a second, because that to me was what was the biggest standout. And a couple of people have mentioned it, and it's true. And he's clearly remodeled his service action. It's interesting, right? Because I think normally you see people do this in the off-season. Gilgross, he alluded to it. He said that normally, and this is what happens, tennis players that don't normally make wholesale changes like this throughout the season. It's normally in the off-season, after the US Open, and after this North American swing, that they then take a break and they work on their game and their craft. Sinner, though, with his coach Piatti, have obviously sat down and said, look, what's our biggest weakness in the game? What's the biggest weakness in your game? And it's clear, and it has been. We've mentioned it on the channel. It's the serve. He's got easy power on both wings, backhand and forehand. Backhand, I actually think, is potentially better than his forehand. And he's got decent touch and feel at the net. It's got better. I think he came to the net better in this tournament. Look, I mean, the depth on his shots when he's, I think, in full flow is good. The angles he finds good as well. Decent variation. The slice is okay. I think the biggest thing was just the serve. The first serve didn't get any points on it. It really was. And, people have likened it to, I guess, you're obviously, when we compare him to Nadal and Djokovic, it's not saying that he is like Nadal and Djokovic. But when they came up, their serves were really underpowered. Jannick Sinner has had a similar thing. He's been winning games basically purely on grit, determination, and from the back of the court, really. And it's been a lot better. It was a lot better in this Washington Open, at the Citi Open, in Washington, D.C. It was just impressive from the Italian. He's now really rising through the ranks, and he's still only a teenager. So this is impressive, to say the least. And obviously, he is one of a few Italian players like Musetti, who obviously had a fantastic run. Right, not just fantastic, but incredible run at the French Open. When I say incredible run, I'm more alluding to the match against Djokovic when he was 2 sets to love up. And potentially could have won that. Berrettini made the final of Wimbledon. Sonego as well is a very solid player. So they've got some good players in their ranks. But I want to touch on the Americans as well, to be honest with you, because this seemed a little bit like a resurgence of the Americans. Of course, Sinner, the eventual winner, beat Sebastian Korda, who I think is probably the best American on tour at the moment, in straight sets in 2 very close tiebreakers. Would have loved to have seen a best of 5 between those two. It would have been fantastic to see. But Sebastian Korda seems to have a complete package: serve, volley, forehand, backhand. It just seems to have all the variations. The base he has is fantastic. If he can build on that, if he can really find consistency in his game and find a rhythm to his game, which he can continually implement, right, in matches, then he's going to be a nightmare for anyone. Jannick Sinner, though, with this remodeled serve, it looks a lot bigger. The first serve kind of MPH is up. The second serve MPH is up. And it's not just that. The kick on the serve is better. Even when he's slicing it, it looks a lot more effective. Obviously hitting corners better as well. And it just gives him a lot more freedom, really, behind it, because the 1+ shot then is not potentially going to be one where he's having to be on the back foot. He's able to then press straight away from shot 1 after that serve, and the 1+ shot can be an offensive shot, or at least a proactive shot, to get him in front in that rally straight away if the opponent does in fact get the return back. So it's a no-brainer. If you can remodel your action and you can make it work, and you can make sure that you're not serving lots of doubles and it's effective, then you should do it. And that's exactly what he's done. Zverev obviously has had issues in the past with double faults. His serve looks exactly the same. But in saying that, obviously he won the Olympics recently. But will he have those issues, at spots in his career going forward still? Probably, to be honest with you, until I guess he tweaks it a little bit. Jannick Sinner has done that. He's tweaked it now. Let's see how much it comes into play in the US Open. Will it bear fruition? Not just short term, but long term is the biggest question. But yeah, really exciting times. Extremely exciting times as a tennis fan at the moment, because we're going into that US Open, and I'm really enjoying the hard court swing so far. We've got Toronto coming up, which is going to be fantastic. We've got Cincinnati coming up, which will be fantastic. What more do you want? What more do you want? Obviously, in Toronto, we've got Nadal, Medvedev, and Tsitsipas, I want to say. I don't know if Zverev's playing that. Cincinnati, Djokovic should be there as well, but we will see. Okay, apart from that, Nadal obviously dropping to number 4. So Toronto is huge for him, because if he doesn't win it, he is defending 500 points there. And I know you're going to say, oh, but it's a Masters 1000. Yeah, but they're still playing half points. So because of the new weird system they had after the pandemic. So Nadal is defending 500 points there. If he doesn't win the tournament, he's going to be in real trouble, and potentially we could have a situation where someone like a Tsitsipas just basically just catches up with him, and that would be a nightmare that would be an absolute nightmare for him, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't want to see it, would you? No, of course not. No one wants to see Rafa Nadal drop to number 5. And the issue for him, not necessarily is the ranking. And you might think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. He's a great player. It's not to do with that. It's to do with the seedings then for the US Open will be extremely interesting to see, because he might end up having to play Djokovic in a quarter. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the rankings so far so you guys can have a look. Novak Djokovic obviously at the top, as we know. He's got a wide berth from Daniel Medvedev. Stefanos Tsitsipas, though, there in number 3, overtaking Rafa Nadal. And you can see Alexander Zverev is not far behind. So Zverev has a good tournament, a couple of tournaments. He could easily be in there. Dominic Thiem still there. Andrei Rublev, Matteo Berrettini, Roger Federer, and Denis Shapovalov. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think if Rafa does go to number 5, his chances of winning the US Open do drop quite dramatically, in my eyes, just because of the seedings. I think he needs to have a pretty easy run and probably avoid Djokovic for the whole tournament, if I'm being honest with you. But something we can discuss later on. In terms of the Americans, though, as well, I mean, as touched upon Korda, obviously Brooksby's coming through, McDonald. They've got Nakashima. Let's see. TFO as well is got so much potential. Will he fulfill it? He's now in his mid-20s. I don't know. Let's see. But they've got talent there. It's just whether they can hone it. So let's see. But Korda seems to have real superstar potential for sure. As you can see there, Roger Federer at number 9 at 4,215 points. And obviously, as I said, turning 40 years of age. And my mind just keeps on wandering around the question in my head, which is he going to play the US Open? And if not, is he going to play any more tennis at all? Because the knee seems to be he seems to be struggling with the knee. The knee is a nightmare at the moment for him, and I'm just hoping that we see more of him. I'm hoping that we get at least one more Grand Slam out of Roger Federer, and not just one more Grand Slam, but one more Grand Slam where he is competitive and at least makes a quarter. Let's see, because going out being bageled in your last set at Wimbledon is just it's not the way to go, is it? But I think either way, incredible player. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. We will be trying to do some bits actually for the Canada. I was going to say the Canada Open, but for Toronto and also for Cincinnati, and not just doing bits like this, but hopefully maybe some watch-alongs as well. I would like to do some, so let's see how those go. And in addition to that, of course, we'll be doing some extensive coverage on the US Open. Do keep an eye out for the preview that will be coming out around the 24th, 25th, probably of August. So do keep an eye out for that. It will be with a special guest. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic chat. And in addition to that, we might even have another collaboration in the first week of the first week even. I can't speak. I'm so tired. In the first week of the US Open with another channel as well. So I'm trying to get you guys as much content as possible with some different people as well. Probably know a little bit more than me. Well, they probably definitely do. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. And remember to smash the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your uncles, tell your aunts. You know what to do. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much.